You've got your characters. What about this idea for the upper world? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think this is the kind of book that I think has been in me for a long time, even if I didn't know it. And so this is probably the upper world in many ways, as I describe it in the book. I mean, just so for people who haven't read it, you basically have Esso who's wedged between a couple of different worlds, and has a girlfriend, girl that he's trying to tell that he's obsessed with, and then one day he's running on his way to school and then gets in the way of a 4x4. Actually, in the act of trying to save a kid, he pushes him out of the way of this 4x4 and gets knocked out, not only out of consciousness, but out of reality as we know, and into this place called the upper world. And in the upper world, he can see time the way Fitz describes it. So his whole life, his birth over there on the left and his death on the right and everything in between. And he catches a glimpse of the end of his day and has to figure out how to sort of stop it and save everyone who he knows and loves. And at the same time, Rhea, in a generation later, teams up with Esso's older self, and they both have the same aim to try and stop this. So I think the upper world is this construct, this place which is embedded in reality, but also hidden from reality, and also contains truths about reality as we see it. I think is almost just a metaphor for physics. There's a lot of things about what Einstein says about time, the fact that time travels faster in some places and travels slower in some places, depending on how fast you're going or how strong a gravitational field is. That's not intuitive. It's not sort of what we necessarily interact with in everyday life. And so it's just almost, the upper world acts as a metaphor for that, with the physics of reality sort of saying, if we could see life and reality the way physics describes it, what might that look like?
Now, the weird thing there is do you see life then in a different way than people like me who I'm not an engineer or a physicist? I'm fascinated by it, but I don't see it. Do you think you see it differently?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. It's a good, I mean, because I think I almost struggle with this question. It's a question that in some ways none of us ever know the answer to, which is how does anybody else but yourself experience reality, right? But I do think that physics does inform how you see things. I have this sort of excerpt in the book where Esso's dad, Blaze, talks about how to access the upper world. And he says that it's all about language. And there's a lot of theories in linguistics about this idea that the language that we speak, whether that's English, French, Greek, or maths, informs how we conceptualize the world. And so, yeah, to an extent, I think it does change things. Because even something like time, you can conceptualize time using the metaphor of money. I think society in general does that. People say, I want to, spend time, this costs me time. I have to invest time. You're wasting time. These are all metaphors that are extracted from the financial language, and that affects the way we see time. And I think it leads to us seeing time as a scarce resource. Whereas you could see time as a mosaic, a beautiful mosaic, that's sort of static, but has this lovely thing going on over here and this lovely thing over there. And it's more about appreciating the beauty and the meaning of life. And that's what you extract from time. And so I do think that, for the most part, I'm probably walking and feeling the same things you are.